Welcome to the HDG Stories podcast, where we'll share our threads of memories, knowledge, experience, and history, knitting all generations into a beautiful tapestry. So please like and share, and be sure to subscribe. Now let's get started.
Hello, this is Ellie, and I'm chatting with Leon Grimes, a respected black man born and raised in Havre de Grace. He's shared stories for well over an hour, and that's after editing. His openness is truly inspiring, and the details he can recall are amazing. Listen and enjoy these excerpts from my chat with Leon. Welcome, Leon.
I think first, what I've been doing is just getting an overview of what you remember from when you were born, from your childhood and stuff.
My name is Leon Grimes. I was born March 30th, 1942 in Havre de Grace, Maryland. I started school in 1949 on Alliance Street. Schools were not integrated then, and it was called the Havre de Grace Colored Elementary School and the Havre de Grace Colored High School. It was all in the same section. And we had first, second, third, and fourth grade there. Then the bigger building was the high school. And in 1955, they built Havre de Grace Consolidated on Oakton Road. I started there in the sixth grade, and I graduated from high school June 1960. After I graduated from high school, I started working at Havre Memorial Hospital as an orderly. The hospital, they had a floor for colored. That was the first floor. Second, third wing, and third north were all the floors for the white. Now, if all the beds were filled on the white floor, then the whites could go on the color floor, but the color couldn't go on the white floor. So therefore, if they didn't have any beds on the color floor, when a colored person come in, then they had to put the colored person on a stretcher. And they had separate bathrooms. They were marked white and colored. I know in 1963 that still existed. I'm not sure when it changed. I don't know if it changed when schools finally integrated in 64 or not, because they passed the law before 64, but they never enforced it until 64. I worked there until 1964. Till 1963 is when I left there and went and trained to be a nurse. I came back and worked at Havre Memorial Hospital until 1970. And then I went back to Baltimore and worked at Baltimore City Hospital until 1978. Then I returned to Havre de Grace, and I've been here ever since because I had to take care of my grandfather. But as a child in Havre de Grace, I was raised in the project on Wilson Street. The project, it was only one section for color, and it was on the upper part of Wilson Street, and that was the only section that black people could live in, and all the other part of the project were for white people. A.J. Fair was our mail carrier, and he lived on Bloomsbury, and that's where all his kids were born. I don't know what year he started his real estate, but then all of a sudden he was the realtor in Havre de Grace. I remember in Havre de Grace as a kid, the white kids and the black kids, they didn't seem to have a problem playing together. We were out every day playing together, although we didn't go to the same school. But it wasn't any problem. We got along fine.
What about like in eateries and stuff like that? Were they segregated?
Yes, where A.J. Fair's office is, that was the black section where the bars were for black people. Okay. Where his office was called the Club 100, and that was for black. Okay, that was a bar. And it was called the Club 100, and it was for blacks because the bars weren't integrated then. Okay. And then also on that same side, there was another bar called Joe Durbin's, and that was a black bar. In 1964, I think, is when everything changed. But people were happy, more so than they are now, I think. And Havre de Grace was an interesting place. And that's when the canning house was there, and the racetrack was here, brought in a lot of interesting people. I learned to ride horses on the racetrack, not in the races, but I learned to ride horses then and walk horse. And Havre de Grace, and I remember dollar days when they used to all the merchants put the tables in the middle of the street, and it was just a big to-do.
Was that a particular day, or did they do more than one?
I think it was always on a Wednesday when the store was closed.
Okay.
And then they had the dollar day, and it was interesting. And I remember when on Halloween, all the stores downtown, from the colored school and the white school, the store owners let you paint pictures on their windows. And then they had judges you won a prize for the best picture that was painted on the store window. And that was interesting.
And everybody took part in that.
Mm-hmm. Everybody took part in that. And in the summertime, when the schools were closed, the Havre de Grace High School used to block off Congress from one corner to the other. And in the summer, black students, white students, they all could go there and register. And every day you could go there, you could play games, they played music, and you could do whatever you want to do, as long as there wasn't any problem. One thing I do remember, driver's education, we were going to school. They had driver's education at Havre de Grace High, and we also had driver's education at Havre de Grace Consolidated. Then all of a sudden it just stopped, and they only had driver's education at the white high school. So most of the white kids were driving when they graduated. Most of the black kids weren't. That's probably why I don't drive. Because I think if they had had the program there, that I would have. Because once you got in a certain grade, then you could take driver's ed. And by the time I got that grade, it was gone. Because when I graduated, they hadn't enforced integration yet. Because I graduated in 1960. And I think they passed the law in 58, but it never was enforced.
What did you do for fun when you were little compared to
little living in the project as far as the playground. I guess you call it the monkey bars.
Yeah.
And we had our own recreation center right up in the corner of Wilson Street where we lived. And down in the field was just one monkey bar. The kids used to go in there and play ball in that field. If it was your birthday, you could use the recreation center to have your party. And I remember my aunt having her wedding there. Kind of hard to explain. People were happy. Like I said, we just had fun. Kids were kids. All kids would play together. Whites and blacks got along.
But there probably wasn't dating at that time. Everybody...
Their parents may not have known.
Okay.
But it was going on. And I know some girls right here now that's older women that I knew that were. Yeah. It existed back then.
Right. But I mean, was that
it wasn't as open as it is now.
Right. But was it a big issue?
I never knew it to be.
So it wasn't like anybody cautioned you about
No. Well, one thing in my household, my parents never raised us that it was a difference between whites and black. That conversation never came up. Everybody, you were just a person. I feel the same way now. I never had a problem with it. And like I said, I never heard it in my household. And now it seems to be more of a problem than it was back then. And even the students, when I volunteered at the elementary school, those students are so innocent. They didn't know anything about white and black. They just knew Johnny was my friend. When it gets to the middle school, that's when it all changes. And I don't know if it's something going on in their household, their parents are having more conversations with them, but they friends at the elementary school, it gets to the middle school, then it all, not all of it, some of it, so. Yeah, and it's obvious. The difference it is when I was coming up, I went to an all-black school, so most of my friends were black. All the kids that are going to school now, a lot of the black kids' friends are going to be white. And in elementary school, they don't pay color any mind. And that's when it all changes.
So then you would have had your own, like, school dances and things like that. They would have all been in your own school.
On our own school.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have...
And we never had new books. All our books came from the white high school when they got new books.
But you didn't have any problem playing with them after school?
No. Because the way it was located in the project where we lived, although we were up, it was a circle, and then it sort of came down, and the road went down like a block. But across from us was a white family, and on the side of us was a black family, but on that other side was a white family. The house across from where I lived, it was all white people, and from that house on down, it was white. But we knew each other. Miss Spencer was a nurse that lived across the street from us. If she wanted something, she would talk to my grandmother or my grandmother. I mean, the color issue never came up. And when we had to come in town here and we were walking, we had to walk past all those houses, and we had to walk past those houses to get to school. Nobody ever said anything. When my aunt bought her house on Junior Etta Street, Italians lived there when she first bought it, in her entertainment room was this door. When you pulled it up, it was a walkway that went all the way over to Erie Street. And when they were selling their bootleg liquor and wine and stuff, if the cops were coming, they would go down in there. Then they would walk over to Erie Street, and they could sell it from over there if they thought somebody was coming. In my aunt's garage was another opening you could go in, and that was a little tunnel down there. And the bedroom that I slept in, well, my aunt's dead now, and her daughter's in the house, and she has linoleum over the floor.
Oh, I was going to say, can I see it?
And then in the bedroom that I slept in on the third floor, it was a opening in the back like that, and I opened it one day and I went inside and I could stand up in there. But that whole house is wet, and it was only Italians up there. And any one of those houses you went to after 2 o'clock, somebody would sell you something.
So the house you're talking about was on Juniata?
The house that I lived in at
Yeah.
one time. Mm-hmm.
And it could go over to
that tunnel. We used to go to Erie Street, and I think it would go to where the Bernardis live. Somebody used to sell hard cider. Lourdes store. I think you could go there and get a gallon of hard cider. Where he was getting it from, I don't know. But my uncle used to go there all the
you
time.
can make that.
Okay. And they used to get the hard cider from there, or they could get. But up at the Italians, after 2 o'clock, you could get wine, you could get cider, you could get liquor, you could get beer, anything you want. They had in those houses up there after they closed the store. And I remember all that. But it was fun times back then. I mean, like, as far as kids playing, we used to play stickball, or you'd be out in the street playing baseball or dodgeball. And I don't even think kids know what dodgeball is now. My niece asked me, well, what did you do to keep yourself busy? We really didn't do a whole lot, but we were outside all day.
Yeah.
And we had fun, or we go in the field and play baseball. I used to like for the older people to tell us stories. They would have a whole group of children around and then tell you a story about how it was. My niece still, it freaks me out when they said, what did they do in the olden days? And that just freaks me out. I told my sister, it seems like when I was coming up, old people looked old. Now they don't look as old to me. I mean, when I'm 74, I know I'm old, but my grandfather looked old at 60. My grandmother's shoes had a square heel on it, and they would tie. I think people had more respect for each other back when I was coming up. I think children had more respect for their parents. In my grandfather's house, when you got out of bed in the morning, you took your bath and put your clothes on. You didn't dare come downstairs with your pajamas on, and you had to say good morning. Another thing, my mother smoked. My grandfather told her, ladies didn't smoke out in the street. And she saw her father coming, and she was outside, she'd put the cigarette out. And as far as walking up the street, you'd always put the lady and say you were on the outside. And when I first started doing it with my niece, she'd say, what are you doing? And I told her, I said, this is what I was taught.
Yeah.
And even at dinner, we had our own little table, and the adults had their table. If they had guests, then you ate at your table, the guests ate at But once you finished dinner, then you had to go outside, they said, because you can't listen to what grown folks are talking about, you know. And I remember all this. Scared of my mother. I don't know if I was scared of her or I had more respect for her. Now, kids don't seem to have any. When I was 23 and I went in training to be a nurse, I came home one weekend and I didn't bring any books. I was 23 years old. My grandmother said, don't you have anything to study? I said, I didn't bring my books home. She said, then you go catch the Greyhound, you go back there and then get your books, and then you come back. And that's what I did. If you're not going to study, then there's no use going to school. And I caught the Greyhound, I went back, got my books, and I came back.
Did you work as a kid?
No. I never had a job until I went to the hospital when I was 18 to get my first job as an orderly. And I didn't do anything because I never had to. I got whatever I wanted. My two sisters and I mean, I never knew I was poor. My grandmother said we were poor. I thought, why did she say that? Because we're not poor. Like I said, all the other kids had jobs. If I wanted money, if my mother didn't give it to me, my grandfather gave it to me. My grandmother was funny though, because Mom would always say, I said, Mom, you have $1 or $2. I don't have any money, but she kept her pocketbook behind a chair like this. So while she's telling you she doesn't have any money, she's walking toward this chair. So we knew she was going to give us the money.
You were just downright spoiled.
Well, that's true. I tell everybody, I said, I had two sisters, but I thought I was an only child.
Well, I was going to say, so with that kind of an upbringing, how did you end up growing up with such values? You usually being spoiled, you don't come up with
Oh, I was
that
spoiled.
work ethic and
My
stuff.
sister that I have left, she still tells me till this day that I'm spoiled. I know my grandfather spoiled. Well, my grandmother spoiled all of us, but she also taught us different things. I mean, when everybody was 12, they had to learn how to wash clothes. They had to learn how to clean. They had to learn how to iron. We were in the house all day on Saturdays, and everybody had something to do. Well, I was always the last one to get outside because I didn't want to do it. My grandmother would tell you, she'd tell my sisters, I don't care if you don't have but one dress. You wash it out every night and you iron it before you go out this house. Till this day, I didn't have to iron this, but I did last night. I can't stand wrinkled clothes.
Thanks, Leon. Your laugh and sense of humor are contagious. We will definitely talk again. For our audience, I hope you enjoyed this chat. You can subscribe to HDG Stories through our website. Check out the special deal for full-length interviews and transcripts that we will start to publish in January of 2017. Until our next chat, take care.
We hope you've enjoyed today's HDG Stories podcast. We encourage you to subscribe. We hope you will share with your friends. Till the next story, we invite you to visit us at hdgstories.com.